Ackley House in Nyack, New York, is a fascinating piece of history, blending charming architecture with intriguing paranormal lore. This classic queen and home, once occupied by the Ackley family, became known for its friendly ghosts. The ensuing legal battle, famously known as the Ghostbusters ruling, revolved around whether the Ackleys had a duty to disclose the home's haunted reputation to potential buyers, the Stambosky family. The New York Supreme Court ultimately ruled that the house was indeed haunted, allowing the Stamboskys to withdraw from the sale and reclaim half their down payment. Today, One La Vida Place has seen its share of notable residents, including musician Ingrid Michaelson, adding to its storied legacy. The blend of its architectural beauty, ghostly reputation, and celebrity connections makes Ackley House a captivating landmark. As the years passed, Ackley House continued to draw interest not just for its historical significance but also for its spectral inhabitants. After the legal battle, the story of the house became a sort of urban legend, attracting curious visitors and paranormal enthusiasts who hoped to catch a glimpse of the friendly spirits said to wander its halls. Ingrid Michaelson, who moved in several years later, often spoke about the unique atmosphere of the home. She would share anecdotes of hearing soft laughter and feeling a gentle breeze in empty rooms. Inspired by the house's character, she wrote several songs that hinted at themes of love and loss, often drawing on the ethereal vibe of her surroundings. Meanwhile, the local ghost tours thrived, with guides weaving tales of the Ackley family and their playful ghosts. Each tour ended with a spirited discussion about the court ruling and its implications, making the house a symbol of the intersection between real estate and the supernatural. However, not everyone was enamored with the haunted reputation. Some residents of Nyack expressed concern that the fame brought by the ghosts overshadowed the beauty of the town itself. A few local historians started to dig deeper into the Ackley family's past, seeking to uncover more about the spirits believed to inhabit the home. They discovered records hinting at a rich history of gatherings, celebrations, and even some tragic events, all of which seemed to leave an imprint on the house. As interest in the home grew, it became the subject of documentaries and podcasts exploring haunted locations. Each retelling added layers to its lore, drawing in new fans and prompting discussions about what it means for a place to be considered haunted. The conversations sparked debates within the community about the nature of ghosts. Were they merely remnants of the past, or did they serve as guardians of history, connecting the living with those who came before? As this vibrant narrative unfolded, the ghosts of Ackley House watched quietly, their presence a reminder of the stories that bind us across time. The future of One La Vida Place hung in the balance, with the allure of its haunted past both a blessing and a curse. Would it continue to thrive as a cultural landmark, or would the weight of its legacy eventually overshadow its beauty? The answer remained just beyond reach, like a whisper in the night. As the years rolled on, the ghosts of Ackley House became almost as integral to Nyack's identity as the scenic views of the Hudson River. Local artists began to flock to the area, inspired by the tales of the house and its spectral residents. Paintings, sculptures, and even theater performances began to emerge, each capturing the essence of the Ackley family's story and the whispers of the past. One particularly ambitious artist, a young woman named Clara, took it upon herself to create a multimedia installation titled Echoes of Ackley. She wanted to explore the emotional resonance of the house through visual art and sound. Clara spent countless nights in the house, sketching and recording, often feeling the presence of the playful spirits around her. Her work aimed to bridge the gap between the living and the dead, giving a voice to the stories long forgotten. Meanwhile, the house's notoriety brought a wave of new owners and tenants, each hoping to capitalize on its unique history. Some embraced the ghostly reputation, hosting Halloween parties that drew crowds, while others attempted to distance themselves from the tales, anxious about how it would affect property values. This dichotomy sparked ongoing debates within the community, igniting passion and division. In the midst of this, a local historian named Jonathan began to investigate the deeper origins of the Ackley family's stories. He unearthed diaries and letters that hinted at the family's struggles and triumphs, revealing a complex tapestry of life in the house during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Jonathan became determined to publish a book that would set the record straight, intertwining the family's history with the ghostly legends that had come to define them. As Clara's installation neared completion, she decided to hold a special opening night at Ackley House, inviting the community to experience her work alongside the living history of the place. She envisioned a night filled with art, storytelling, and perhaps even a few ghostly encounters. Excitement buzzed in the air, and word spread quickly. But as the date approached, strange occurrences began to unfold. Clara found herself waking in the middle of the night, hearing soft murmurs and seeing fleeting shadows in the corners of her vision. The whispers seemed to grow more insistent as the opening night neared, almost as if the spirits were responding to the attention she was bringing to their story. Simultaneously, Jonathan's research uncovered a chilling incident from the past, a tragic fire that had occurred in the house decades before, resulting in the untimely deaths of several members of the Ackley family. This revelation added layers of complexity to the ghosts' identities, transforming the narrative from one of mere hauntings to a poignant tale of loss and longing. With Clara's installation opening night looming and Jonathan's findings casting a shadow over the celebrations, the atmosphere in the house grew thick with anticipation. The spirits, once friendly and playful, seemed to take on a more watchful demeanor, as if guarding the stories they held dear. As the community gathered for the opening, the boundary between the living and the dead began to blur, setting the stage for an unforgettable night where past and present would collide in unexpected ways. Clara stood at the threshold, heart racing, sensing that the evening held more than just art. It was a reckoning, a moment when all the threads of history would weave together, revealing truths that had long been buried. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you liked this story. The night of Clara's installation arrived, and the atmosphere crackled with energy as guests streamed into Ackley House. Soft candlelight flickered against the walls, illuminating the intricate woodwork of the queen and architecture. Clara had transformed the living room into a gallery of her work, showcasing ethereal paintings that seemed to breathe with life and soundscapes that echoed the whispers she had recorded during her time in the house. As the crowd mingled, Clara felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. She could sense that something was different about the house tonight. The air felt charged, as if the spirits were curious about the unfolding events. Guests wandered from room to room, each one captivated by the art and the lingering sense of history that permeated the space. Jonathan arrived, holding a stack of his research notes. He found Clara amidst the vibrant chatter and laughter, and the two shared a knowing glance. They both understood that they were on the brink of revealing something significant, something that could reshape the narrative of Ackley House forever. As the evening progressed, Clara gathered everyone in the main hall for a presentation. She spoke passionately about her vision for the installation, emphasizing the importance of connecting with the past and honoring the lives that had once filled the house. The audience listened intently, and Clara felt the spirits around her, their presence palpable and supportive. Just as she began to play a soundscape, she had created a hauntingly beautiful composition interwoven with the soft voices she had recorded. An unexpected chill swept through the room. The lights flickered momentarily, and a hushed silence fell over the guests. Eyes widened as they exchanged glances, sensing that the spirits were making their presence known. In that moment, Clara felt a surge of determination. She spoke louder, inviting the spirits to join them, to share their stories and emotions. And as she did, she noticed a flicker of movement in the corner of her eye. A figure, soft and translucent, hovered near the window. A woman, dressed in period clothing, her expression both wistful and inviting. The room held its breath, captivated by the vision before them. Clara felt an overwhelming sense of connection, as if the woman were reaching out across time, bridging the gap between the living and the departed. She stepped forward, instinctively extending her hand toward the apparition, feeling a warmth radiate from her palm. Meanwhile, Jonathan's heart raced as he recognized the figure. His research had included a description of Helen Ackley, the matriarch who had once roamed these very halls. He felt compelled to speak, sharing the history he had uncovered, recounting the family's joys and tragedies. With every word, the atmosphere thickened with emotion, as if the very walls of the house were absorbing the narrative. Suddenly, the soundscape crescendoed, blending Clara's art with Jonathan's storytelling. The air vibrated with energy as guests were swept up in the moment. They could feel the weight of history pressing upon them, a palpable reminder that the past was not so distant after all. As the evening unfolded, guests began to share their own stories of connection and loss. Some spoke of personal encounters with the supernatural, while others reflected on their own family histories. The room transformed into a collective space of remembrance, where the lines between the living and the dead began to blur even further. Clara and Jonathan exchanged glances, both aware that they had tapped into something profound. But as the night wore on, a subtle shift began to occur. The friendly spirits, once eager to engage, seemed to retreat, and an underlying tension emerged. Clara sensed it, a kind of restlessness that hadn't been there before. As the clock struck midnight, a sudden gust of wind rattled the windows, and the lights flickered violently. The mood shifted from reverence to apprehension, as guests looked around nervously. Clara felt a chill run down her spine. Something was shifting in the energy of the house, and she realized that while they had honored the spirits, they might have inadvertently stirred something deeper, something that had been long buried in the shadows of Ackley House. Before she could process it, a loud crash echoed from the upstairs, sending a ripple of shock through the crowd. Eyes widened, and whispers of concern filled the air. Clara's heart raced. Whatever had been awakened was now making its presence known in a way that could not be ignored. Determined not to let fear overwhelm her, Clara took a deep breath and motioned for Jonathan to follow her as she led the group up the staircase, feeling a mix of dread and anticipation. The spirits of Ackley House were restless, and it was time to confront whatever had been lurking in the shadows. As Clara and Jonathan ascended the staircase, the air grew colder, thick with an unsettling tension. The guests followed hesitantly, their excitement morphing into trepidation. Clara's heart pounded in her chest. She could sense that whatever had caused the crash was significant, perhaps even tied to the deeper history of the house. They reached the second-floor landing, where a hallway stretched out before them. Clara turned to the group, her voice steady despite the growing anxiety. "Let's stay together. Whatever is up here, we can face it as a community." The guests nodded, some visibly shaken but others filled with a sense of determination. As they approached the end of the hallway, a door stood slightly ajar, the remnants of the crash visible just inside the room. Clara glanced at Jonathan, who nodded, urging her to take the lead. She pushed the door open, revealing a small, dimly lit bedroom filled with dust-covered furniture and faded photographs. In the center of the room, an antique rocking chair had toppled over, its legs still twitching slightly, as if someone had just vacated it. Clara felt a rush of cold air sweep past her, sending shivers down her spine. She stepped into the room, her heart racing, and instinctively called out, "Is anyone here?" The room remained silent, but a flicker of movement caught her eye, a shadow darting across the far wall. Clara's breath caught in her throat. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling but resolute. Jonathan stepped closer, feeling the weight of the moment. "It's okay," he added softly. "We're here to listen. We want to understand." Suddenly, the temperature dropped further, and the air shimmered. A figure began to materialize before them. A young girl in a white dress with long, dark hair, her expression one of sorrow mixed with longing. Clara felt a deep sadness emanating from the spirit, and it took her a moment to realize she was looking at a child, perhaps a daughter of the Ackley family, lost to time. "What happened to you?" Clara whispered, her heart aching for the girl. The spirit reached out, her hand almost touching Clara's. Images flashed in Clara's mind, a family gathered for a celebration, laughter echoing, then suddenly shifting to chaos and confusion. Clara could sense the girl's fear and her desperate desire to communicate something important. As the guests gasped, Jonathan stepped forward, recalling the diary entries he had found that hinted at a child lost to illness. "Your name is Elizabeth, isn't it?" he asked gently. The girl nodded slowly, a tear slipping down her translucent cheek. Clara felt a wave of compassion wash over her. "We're here for you, Elizabeth," she said, her voice softening. "What do you want us to know?" In that moment, the air around them began to crackle with energy, and the girl's presence intensified. Clara saw flashes of images. A mother weeping, a family torn apart by grief, and a promise of love that remained unfulfilled. The realization struck her this was not just about the haunted past. It was about healing. As the spirit of Elizabeth lingered, Clara turned to the guests, her voice filled with conviction. "We need to honor her memory. This house has seen both joy and sorrow, and it's our responsibility to acknowledge that." The crowd, still entranced by the apparition, began to murmur in agreement. Jonathan encouraged them, suggesting they share stories of loss and love, creating a space for healing not just for Elizabeth, but for everyone who had ever felt forgotten. With that, they began to speak, some sharing tales of their own losses, others reflecting on the importance of remembrance. Clara felt a warmth envelop the room, as if the spirit of Elizabeth was joining them in this collective act of remembrance. But just as the atmosphere began to shift towards something hopeful, a loud, unsettling thud echoed from downstairs, jolting everyone back to the present. The energy in the room changed again, turning heavy and ominous. Clara felt a chill creep back in, and the spirit of Elizabeth wavered, her expression shifting to one of fear. "Something isn't right," Jonathan said, glancing back toward the doorway. "We need to see what that was." Determined, Clara nodded, leading the group back down the hallway. But this time the feeling was different. They were no longer just curious visitors. They were a community, bound together by shared experiences, ready to confront whatever darkness might be lingering in Ackley House. As they descended the staircase, the oppressive feeling grew, and Clara felt a knot tighten in her stomach. Whatever had been disturbed tonight wasn't finished with them yet. They reached the bottom, only to find the front door swinging open and shut, as if pushed by an unseen force. A gust of wind howled through the house, carrying with it a cacophony of whispers, both pleading and angry. Clara steeled herself, aware that they were now at the center of something much larger than they had anticipated. The past was not just a collection of stories. It was alive, and it demanded to be acknowledged, respected, and understood. She turned to the group, determination etched on her face. "We have to face this together. Let's not let fear control us. We're here to listen." With hearts pounding and resolve strengthening, they stepped into the chaos, ready to confront the hidden truths that Ackley House still held close. As Clara and the group stepped into the chaotic energy of the hall, the door slammed shut behind them, echoing like a warning. The whispers intensified, swirling around them, a mix of voices filled with both sorrow and anger. Clara felt the weight of the spirits pressing in, their stories demanding to be heard. "Everyone, take a deep breath," she urged, grounding herself in the moment. "We're here for you. We want to understand your pain." With her words, the whispers quieted slightly, as if the spirits were intrigued by her willingness to listen. Jonathan took a step forward, ready to support Clara. "We're not just here for Elizabeth. We're here for all of you. You deserve to be remembered." The room fell silent, and the atmosphere shifted again. A figure emerged from the shadows, a man, tall and somber, his eyes filled with anguish. Clara recognized him immediately from the historical records Jonathan had shared. He was Thomas Ackley, the patriarch of the family. "Why do you disturb us?" His voice rumbled, deep and resonant, echoing through the hall. "Our pain is eternal, cannot be forgotten." Clara felt a chill run through her, but she held her ground. "We're not here to forget. We want to honor your family's story. We want to understand what happened so that it doesn't fade away." Thomas's gaze softened, a flicker of hope breaking through the sorrow. "For years, we have lingered in this space, trapped by our grief. We never had the chance to say goodbye." Jonathan stepped forward, his voice steady. "We want to help you find peace. You have stories to tell, and we're ready to listen. Please, share your truth." The atmosphere shifted again, and Clara sensed a surge of energy. Memories flooded the room, vivid images cascading like a movie reel. Laughter during family gatherings, a wedding celebration filled with joy, and then a sudden, Dark turned sickness, grief, and the shattering of a once happy home. Thomas spoke again, his voice breaking. We lost so much, and in our sorrow we became shadows of ourselves. I failed to protect them. As he spoke, Elizabeth reappeared, her eyes wide with understanding. Clara realized that this was not just about the past, it was about healing generational wounds. You didn't fail, Thomas, she said softly. You loved them fiercely. Your family's spirit lives on in this house, in the stories shared and the memories made. Let us help you remember the joy alongside the pain. The room vibrated with emotion, and the other guests, moved by the moment, began to share their own stories of loss, love, and remembrance. They spoke not only for themselves but for the Ackleys, creating a tapestry of shared experiences that intertwined their lives with those who had once inhabited the house. As the stories flowed, Clara felt the heaviness lift, replaced by a warm, golden light that enveloped the room. The spirits began to materialize around them, not as shadows of sorrow but as vibrant presences, filled with love and gratitude. Thomas and Elizabeth exchanged a look of profound understanding, and Clara could sense the release of long-held grief. In that moment, the door to the house swung open again, revealing the night sky, stars shining brightly. A gentle breeze swept through, carrying with it a sense of peace and closure. Clara looked around at her fellow guests, their faces illuminated by a sense of hope and connection. Thank you, Thomas said, his voice now filled with warmth. You have given us the chance to heal. We can finally let go. With that, the spirits began to fade, their forms shimmering like sunlight breaking through the clouds. Clara felt tears in her eyes as she witnessed the profound transformation taking place before her. They were not just leaving. They were moving on, free from the burdens of the past. As the last of the spirits disappeared, the atmosphere in the house shifted to one of calm and tranquility. Clara turned to the group, now bound by a shared experience that would remain with them forever. They had faced the shadows and brought light to the stories hidden within Ackley House. Jonathan placed a hand on Clara's shoulder, pride and relief evident in his eyes. You did it. You helped them find peace. As the guests began to leave, the echoes of their stories lingered in the air. Clara knew that Ackley House would never be just a haunted site again. It would be a sanctuary for the memories of the past and a testament to the power of connection and understanding. Together, they stepped out into the night, the door closing softly behind them, leaving behind a legacy of love that would resonate in Nyack for generations to come. The house stood tall and proud, a symbol of healing, where the living and the dead had found a way to coexist, reminding all who passed by that every story, no matter how haunting, deserves to be told. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you liked this story.